Hey everyone, Mr. Aiken here again for a weekly review. We're about halfway through October now, so things are going pretty well. And looking at this slide here, it looks like we have some of the kind of same updates still going on here. Checking in on the gradebook. Remember, make sure you email me with missing assignments or concerns. I am still updating the two most recent assignments, so that being the one about life in the Middle Ages, and then the other being about the Crusades. It was a crash course video. So make sure you're getting those two done. I believe the due date was set for today, so make sure you get those in by the end of the day, and I'll have those graded by the end of the week and fully updated. As far as in class as well, my cohort B started it yesterday, and cohort A will start it tomorrow. There are some new project guidelines posted on Google Classroom. So if you're in cohort A, don't worry about looking at that just yet, because we will talk about it in class and we'll get some time to start on it. As for cohort B, we got some time to start in class on that assignment, and your virtual assignment coming up is just going to say, work on the project at home. I'm going to give you guys some time to work on that because I want to make sure people put in a lot of effort and do really, really well on this one. So being the second project here, it's still worth quite a few points, especially if you did not do the first project. This is going to be a chance to recover a lot of ground here with the class. So the other big reminder is that test corrections are still available. So I talked about those in last week's weekly review. So if you aren't sure what those are, check out that video where I talked about what you need to qualify for those. It's pretty simple. But if you want to take advantage of that, you can still let me know. A couple people have done that so far and improved their grade by quite a bit, which has been awesome. So if you want to do that as well, let me know. Otherwise, today, for this weekly review, we're going to focus on the feudal system, which we filled out our charts last week here. It's an important concept that we want to make sure we know, and a lot of vocab words that you've probably never heard before that you'll want to be familiar with. So, heading over to the chart here. So remember, in class, we had started by filling in this chart, which is a bunch of very, very wordy definitions of the parts of the feudal system. So some of the words were probably ones that you were familiar with before, right? We've talked about kings, people like Charlemagne. You probably know what a knight is. I mean, if I say picture a knight fighting, you think of the shining armor and the sword, but knowing what they do in this feudal system is going to be incredibly important. So make sure we're studying these words here so that when I use them in a sentence, we're not too lost here. The terms that tend to be forgotten the most are definitely, the first one is vassal here. So a vassal is anybody who accepts a fief. So that means that within our chart here, so let me go up to the chart, anybody who accepts a fief, so a plot of land, becomes a vassal to the person above them. So what that means is the lords, we can see the arrow pointing down here, the lords are accepting a fief from the king. So that means the lord is a vassal to the king. Think of vassal like a tie between the two. They're connected now because that fief has been given, and they're giving something in return here. So a vassal accepts the fief. So moving down, that also means that a knight is a vassal to a lord because the lord has given them land. They're providing military service in return, and so therefore they are vassals. You can also count peasants in this as well because they are getting to live on the land. Although it's slightly different, they're not being given the land, they're just being allowed to be on it. But they are kind of vassals, they're still kind of tied to the knights and the lords, and thus the king above them. So vassal, anybody who accepted a fief, is definitely one I think that people tend to get confused on. The other thing that you want to make sure you know the differences are the words are the difference between a serf and a peasant. So remember that serfs are different than peasants because they are legally bound to the manner that they worked. So that means they are not allowed to leave that fiefdom that they have been assigned to, or that plot of land that they have been assigned to by law. But keep in mind that this is not the same as slavery, even though, a lot of these things sound pretty harsh on the serf themselves. They were not free to marry without consent. They were not allowed to leave without consent. And it was also hereditary. So that means serfdom was often passed on to children of other serfs. So in terms of population, most of the population actually fell into that category. It was the estimates are about 90 to 95% of the population were peasants, while about 70% of the population were serfs. So most people fell into this category here of serfdom. So make sure we're studying through the charts here, knowing who lies where, knowing kind of this hierarchy here, who is giving what in service to who, peasants, knights, lords, kings, what is being exchanged here, knowing our vocab words here, because they were important when we moved on to talking about the Crusades, and they will be even more important when we talk about how the feudal system falls apart with the growth of towns, which is what we'll get to the end of this week and into next. So those are kind of our topics here. So so really not a whole lot here left to say. If you do have any more questions about things or how the class is going, make sure you let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a good day.